Hello everyone, welcome to the latest in our 2023 Pain Point Series webinars. My name is Claudio Palais. I'm a Senior Content Manager for NetBrain, once again joined by one of our excellent demo engineers, Nazanin Younesi. Today's webinar is all about adopting proactive automation for a transformation to leaner NetOps. This webinar is part of our ongoing Pain Point series, where each month we tackle a common pain point in NetOps and how teams can utilize NetBrain to address them. Last month's webinar, Network Security Automation Best Practices, is available on demand from our website, so if you missed it, we encourage you to check it out. Our engineer George demos two scenarios where security compliance can be easily automated. In the following months, we'll dive into change management, hybrid network visualization, and outage prevention. Be on the lookout for those and be sure to register. Today, we'll explore a topic that many may not know can be automated: troubleshooting. We've heard from many engineers that felt that automating something as dynamic and uncertain as problem diagnosis wasn't possible. When people think of automation, they envision automating more structured workflows. Troubleshooting requires skills and instincts developed over years of experience. But if you can capture that expert experience and skill, you can utilize it to automate incident response. And that's what we hope to demonstrate today. But first, let's talk a little bit about NetBrain. Founded in 2004, NetBrain is the most widely adopted network automation and visibility platform today. More than 2,500 of the world's largest enterprises and managed service providers use NetBrain to simplify network management tasks, reduce MTTR, and provide a top-down understanding of how the network supporting their business works. Why NetBrain? NetBrain's automation is 100% no-code, meaning network teams adopting NetBrain don't have to invest time and resources developing software and scripts. If you know how to manage your network via CLI, you know how to automate using NetBrain. And that automation is powerful because it captures the intent of your network. Whereas typical code-based automation consists of device-level scripts, NetBrain automation is built on network-level understanding of your infrastructure. Network intents digitize how your network should behave. Intents make it easy to scale your network operations because intents are automation at scale. One intent can be replicated across your entire network or any subset of the network you require. And that's possible because of NetBrain's vendor-agnostic, holistic view of the network. Our digital twin and dynamic maps are built from live forwarding data from your network, whether that be traditional, virtual, software-defined, or even cloud. So let's discuss how the industry is accustomed to addressing network issues and disruptions. It relies on a knowledgeable team of highly skilled individuals to manually tackle any operational or support problems that may present themselves. Makes sense, as you'd want your best and brightest to face all the unique obstacles that might arise. But as the business and network grows, the scaling problem becomes apparent. More and more incidents occur, requiring more and more attention from your best experts. Each engineer only has so much time during the day, and every minute spent troubleshooting is a minute not working to grow and improve the network. As your infrastructure starves for upgrades, outage events grow larger and more frequent, leaving even less time for innovation. It's not a happy cycle. What's the result? Enterprise Management Associates reveals that the average time to resolve an issue is 5 to 6 hours. Sounds pretty bad, but the data gets worse. Of those 5 to 6 hours, 1 to 1.5 are spent just finding the right cross-functional response team, hunting down the right engineers for the job. That's the inefficiency at scale. How do we solve this? 90% of organizations believe automation is the holy grail of business and process transformation. I know for a lot of the businesses that I've been a part of, this seems easier said than done. Automating standard tasks and processes seem plausible, but how can we teach a machine to diagnose unique one-off scenarios that require human skill and intuition? Well, perhaps network issues aren't that unique. NetBrain's own internal research in collaboration with our own customers show that up to 95% of all network problems are repetitive in nature. Analysis of ticket data shows similar problems on different parts of the network or different problems that require the same or similar troubleshooting steps. Not to mention the 13.3% of tickets that are exact repeats, the same problems occurring multiple times. When we assemble our IT teams, we don't envision them spending hours on repetitive work. So how do we get a machine to automate our engineers' best troubleshooting steps and techniques? By utilizing network intents to digitize their know-how. If 95% of incidents are repetitive, that means 95% of incidents can be automated. We simply capture the steps used to resolve the previous incidents into your intent library. One particular incident may have affected just one particular access switch, but now with those troubleshooting techniques documented within an intent, we can replicate that intent to be used on any similar switch which might one day experience the same issue or issues. And did I mention that none of this involves any coding whatsoever? With our subject matter experts' know-how captured, we can then integrate NetBrain with third-party tools to trigger automated diagnosis as soon as an incident is reported. No more waiting hours for a support technician to acknowledge a ticket and identify the right resources for troubleshooting. Seconds after an incident is reported and before an engineer has even had a chance to acknowledge a ticket, NetBrain can build a map of the affected network area, identify the traffic paths of any affected applications, diagnose the root cause, and provide the recommended remediation steps. This automation can be initiated by your ITSM solution of choice or via self-service, meaning even end users can be the catalyst for remediation. This is part of NetBrain's shift left philosophy towards network support. Similar to the shifting left of software development earlier in the development lifecycle, NetBrain automation resolves network issues earlier in the support lifecycle. This avoids cumbersome escalations and significantly shortens costly downtime. Even when escalations or cross-team collaboration is needed, NetBrain particular access switch. But now with those troubleshooting techniques documented within an intent, we can replicate that intent to be used on any similar switch which might one day experience the same issue or issues. And did I mention that none of this involves any coding whatsoever? With our subject matter experts know-how captured, we can then integrate NetBrain with third-party tools to trigger automated diagnosis as soon as an incident is reported. No more waiting hours for a support technician to acknowledge a ticket and identify the right resources for troubleshooting. Seconds after an incident is reported and before an engineer has even had a chance to acknowledge a ticket, NetBrain can build a map of the affected network area, identify the traffic paths of any affected applications, diagnose the root cause, and provide the recommended remediation steps. This automation can be initiated by your ITSM solution of choice or via self-service, meaning even end users can be the catalyst for remediation. This is part of NetBrain's shift left philosophy towards network support. Similar to the shifting left of software development earlier in the development lifecycle, NetBrain automation resolves network issues earlier in the support lifecycle. This avoids cumbersome escalations and significantly shortens costly downtime. Even when escalations or cross-team collaboration is needed, NetBrain provides all the ticket information and automation results in the handy incident portal that allows teams to quickly share information and identify the personnel and measures needed to resolve an issue. So let's see this in action. My colleague Nazanin will demo one scenario that many of you will be familiar with, and this will bring home the truth of repetitive incidents. Routing neighbors down, interface errors, connectivity problems, they happen all the time. We know how to resolve these issues, so why are we still doing it manually? As the Center for Financial Professionals found when surveying leaders from the financial industry about the biggest benefits to tech in their industry, automation and speed was considered important to 97% of the respondents. Nazanin will show us how to accomplish that with intense and proactive automation. Take it away, Nazanin.
Thanks, Claudio. And where I want to focus today is repetitive incidents. We're no stranger to repetitive incidents within our organization. These could be port flaps, sometimes even security triggers, and they can be overlooked, which is bad because in turn it leads to potential outages, sometimes even SLA breaches. So our objective with diagnostic automation is kind of remediating these instances, trying to help prevent them. Here I have an example of a BGP neighbor down alert for a specific interface on a Boston router. Now, this could be a redundant ticket within your organization. So this could be one of 12 that come in on a day, and a regular day may look like this ticket gets assigned to Dave. Dave maybe scroll down, just close the ticket and call it. Because 90 times out of 100 or 99 times out of 100, this ticket is just redundant. It's a simple flap and there's no real issue or no real incident. But by chance, that one time that it is a real legitimate incident, Dave Spence closes the ticket and there's an actual outage. Well, that one chance, one time is all an organization needs to cause a catastrophic incident. So what we're trying to do here, or what I'm trying to demonstrate here, is how NetBrain and diagnostic automation, trigger automation to be very specific, will help prevent this. So NetBrain actually has the intelligence to go through this ticket and based on the short description, choose keywords and essentially turn them into variables in order to trigger a network automation or what I like to call a network intent. So in this case, the words may be BGP, down, and flat. So what does this look like? Essentially, we have Dave Spence come in Monday morning after the weekend, and he gets this ticket. This again is a redundant ticket for him. But now, when he scrolls down before closing the ticket, he could see that NetBrain has already ran some checks, and he could see that it's found a root cause. So NetBrain has gone in based on those words and ran a repetitive issues BGP config check, which came out to show that BGP configuration has not changed, and it's found that the BGP neighbor is idle. So in turn, there was a legitimate incident, or there was a legitimate issue here. So now Dave has found this issue. How can he go about troubleshooting and collaborating with his peers? Well, say he wants to collaborate with an external user. And by external user, I don't mean outside of the organization. It could just be someone within the organization who doesn't necessarily have seats to use NetBrain. You're able to use this read-only portal to collaborate with your peers. And they could see the map, they could see the device information, the link information, and they could even see the output of the checks that NetBrain has run. You have the option to comment directly in the ticket here, or you can even mention some of the people in your organization and bring this to their attention as well. But now Dave wants to troubleshoot a little bit more. He saw that the neighbor state is idle. He wants to make sure a couple of other things are working fine. He's able to open this map and this incident directly in NetBrain as well by using this Open in NetBrain button here on the top right. And within a few seconds, you can see the map populate here directly in NetBrain, and then he can run all his checks as he wishes here. Now, if I click on this red bell in the right corner here, you can see all those checks pop up again. They're no longer read-only. By that, I mean I can click into them, which I'll do in a sec, and you still have all the functionality of collaborating with your people in your organization and commenting directly in the ticket within this pane as well. So if I click into these intents, and I keep saying network intents, but if I click into these intents, what are they? So if I click into the first one here, BGP flat check, you can see that this is a non-code automation that's checking for a flat check. So how do we know this? So we can see that this is looking for the output of a show IP BGP neighbor. And if I click edit here, and I click into the intent here, you can see that it's looking for uptime. And I want to pause at the screen here because I love showing people just how easy it is to create these network intents. There's no code involved here at all. This is device data logic. So essentially, you put in your command for this instance, you put in your command show IP BGP neighbor, and you basically tell NetBrain what you're looking for within that output, and it's as easy as that. Very simple to learn and very simple to follow. So that was the first check. The next check you may want to check for is to see if there's any configuration changes. So what does that look like? We're looking for configuration diagnosis. So we're looking for any changes within configuration, which is basically self-explanatory. It's looking for the configuration output and then comparing them. Now we want to see the neighbor state. And here we're running a show IP BGP neighbor for that specific neighbor, and you can see that the state is idle. It's just looking for the state here. And what I love about this and why I love demonstrating these steps is if you have a specific incident or a specific redundant ticket that keeps coming in unique to your environment, you're probably thinking about it right now. You're the Dave Spence of your organization, and you're thinking, how can this apply to my organization? You're able to stack all these checks into one intent within your environment or for a specific incident. So what I mean by this is, I had a client ask me previously, well, they have Aristas and Cisco's as well. Well, you can have separate checks for Cisco and Arista and stack them within one intent this way. Now, how do I scale these intents? You've seen the functionality within a single map, but these are only 3 devices. Where do these intents go? And how we do this is very simple. We use something called the intent library. And this is where we keep the intent templates. And what I mean by intent template is essentially it's a template, meaning it's these same intents, but you put it into a template format. So it's applicable to the number or the specified devices you specify. So let's get into a little bit more detail here and explain what I mean by that. If I go into here and I choose repetitiveness BGP config check. This is a check that we've had here that was checking for config changes. If I click into this intent template, you can see that it's applicable to 41 devices. And we call this decoding. So essentially what decode now does is it goes across your environment, your organization, and based on the specifications you configure within your intent template, it'll find the devices that this intent template is applicable to. So you can use this config check on 41 devices. Now you have multiple options. You have triggered automation, you have preventative automation, and you have cloned intents. So this is where you would basically replicate your network intents or compile them together in a way that works best for your specific needs. And I'll show you what that looks like. If I go into configure trigger automation, you can see that this is where the triggered automation is configured. So I could come into here and it tells me if a ticket comes and an incident comes into ServiceNow and it has these key criteria, these keywords or these key variables, then trigger these intents. And I'm just going to reiterate what I mentioned before. So we kind of go full circle and you get a better understanding. So essentially, I'm going to repeat myself here. In this case, if a ticket comes in with BGP, down, and flap, then trigger these intents or these network automation checks. And with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Claudio and we can answer some questions later.
Thank you, Nazanin, for that excellent demonstration. Before we get to the Q&A, we want to thank you once again for joining us today and also wanted to share this scannable QR code that will direct you to our website where you can schedule your own demo or check out our new guided tours at your own pace. And with that, let's get to the Q&A. Just a reminder that you can input any questions you might have in the chat window and we'll answer them there. So we'll give a few seconds for questions to come in and we'll begin answering them. Okay, so here's one. Nazanin, besides ServiceNow, we saw that in the demo. What other software can we trigger NetBrain automation from?
Yep. So as long as your ticketing system has a public API, which most do nowadays, integration is possible with NetBrain.
Cool. So theoretically, any software that has an API can be integrated with NetBrain. Okay, cool. Another question is, instead of event triggered automation, could we also set them to run on a predetermined schedule?
Yeah, and that's something I really love too. So you can also set those network intents that I demonstrated into a timed task. And where this works best is, like I mentioned with Dave Spence, but you're coming in after a weekend and it's Monday morning. And sometimes you just want to make sure some checks are already done against your environment to make sure that everything's running smoothly before the week start. So that's where that would come in good place. And yeah, to answer your question, it's very possible.
Here's another question. Are there pre-configured intent templates for basic tasks available from NetBrain?
Yes. So out of the box, I believe there's 60 and they're very generic. So just if you have the intent template window that I had open previously, you could see them there. And just by the name, I mean, the names are pretty generic enough that you should understand the function. So it'll be, for example, show BGP neighbor would be the name of the intent itself. So, you would be able to understand it that way.
And can users build upon that? Could they like sort of copy that and then make it a little bit more customized to their environment?
Yep. We encourage everyone to take what you get out of the box and make it customized or cater it to your specific organization needs. Absolutely.
Awesome. We also have another question. Can we have one intent trigger another intent based on the results of the first? So can we cascade intents?
Of course. So you could set up following intents based on the results. So for example, if BGP neighbor is idle, then can you also run these checks as well? And it could do that.
Okay, I believe that's it for the questions. Maybe give it a few seconds to see if another one comes in. Well, I think that about wraps it up for our Q&A. So if you're looking forward toward our next Pain Point webinar, be sure to join us next month. Until then, thank you and goodbye.